Good morning, everyone. Welcome. It is FPC Radio Live. It's Tuesday, March 7th, 2023. I forgot what year it was for a second. I don't know. Maybe it's because I really haven't had much coffee today, John. But maybe it's 2022 because I feel like I'm having a little bit of deja vu with murmurs that Tom Brady might be considering unretiring, and we'll touch on that. Don't worry. We got the two old guys on tap for today's show. And I'm not talking about us, John. I'm talking about Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. No, we're going to start, though, with Derek Carr, because naturally, if you listened to us yesterday, I think we both kind of said, or I know I said, that the first domino to fall was probably going to be Aaron Rodgers. But I was wrong, because maybe an hour after we got off the air, not even, we find out Derek Carr has agreed to join the New Orleans Saints. 4 years, $100 and some odd million. I just had the numbers in front of me, but bottom line is it's a lot of money for what I believe is an okay quarterback. I think the Saints are a pretty good situation. They certainly, might have some ability to improve the roster. I mean, they're still going to have to do some cap gymnastics here, but look, I mean, he finds a spot in a division that is obviously up for grabs, and that might not even be the best way to describe it. I said yesterday when I recorded a Full Press NFL podcast, look, Carr to New Orleans makes them the favorite in that division because, well, they actually have a quarterback. Wow, how about that? They have a quarterback. The other three teams don't. Doesn't mean that can't change quickly because, like I said, I think Carr's a pretty good player. Beyond that, I don't, Saints fans, I would temper your expectations because I don't see Derek Carr as a guy who's going to come in and necessarily elevate your team. I think by virtue of the fact that he's better than Andy Dalton, they're going to be a little bit better. And perhaps the connection with Dennis Allen, the guy who was coaching the Raiders when they drafted Derek Carr, maybe that helps. But at the end of the day, I just think the guy is who he is. He's a sub 500 quarterback who has moments of great play, but for the most part, he's mediocre to pretty good. And I think if that's your expectations, you can perhaps build a team around him to best utilize his skill set. And that's what New Orleans is kind of tasked with right now. And look, I said it yesterday on the Full Press NFL podcast. The one thing that's going for him moving from from Las Vegas to New Orleans is, well, I did it again, in Las Vegas / Oakland / whatever. They never really gave him anything of a good defense. I think they always ranked in the bottom third. So perhaps a little bit better defensive unit might turn some of those losses into wins for Derek Carr. So not surprising that he ends up going to New Orleans. I was kind of surprised that it just happened, and now we're done with it. Now we're looking at the other quarterbacks.
It might lead you to believe that Rodgers to the Jets is close and pending, right? So that the message got out there to Derek Carr that the Jets were no longer interested because they felt that they were going to acquire Aaron Rodgers, and it's just dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and making the deal with Green Bay and the Jets in terms of money and draft picks or whatever. So now it's okay for Derek Carr to go elsewhere. I think it's smart to move to the NFC. Not as good as the AFC. And like you said, he just went from being the third or the fourth best quarterback in his division to now being clearly the best quarterback in his new division. And again, we'll see what Carolina, Atlanta, and Tampa do going forward. But one thing about Derek Carr, I'm not a huge fan of his, but he's durable, right? You can kind of count on him to play pretty much every week. So that's a good thing. That's a start, right? Because, it felt like half the quarterbacks in the league last year missed pretty sizable amount of time. The other thing that I just find hilarious is Derek Carr is a very religious guy. I thought he would go to Carolina with Frank Reich, another religious guy. I thought that would be a pretty good bond with Derek Carr and Frank Reich. Instead, he's going to New Orleans. So here's a very kind of buttoned up, religious, straight arrow guy who is going from Las Vegas to New Orleans, perhaps the two most decadent cities in America, right? Yeah. So that's kind of interesting. Maybe if he plays in Europe in a few years, he'll play in Amsterdam or somewhere like that. So, but it's a solid move for New Orleans. Like you said, this is probably going to be the best defense he's ever had. And you got Chris Olave, who's going to be a second-year wide receiver, who's outstanding. Alvin Kamara. So yeah, they're the favorite right now until Carolina maybe acquires a quarterback or drafts one. Same thing with Atlanta. That division is just all jumbled up.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, at this moment, by virtue of the fact that they just have a quarterback that you can pretty much pen in as the starter, makes them the best team in the division. Now, that can change drastically. I mean, I don't know what progress or momentum or change has been in the Lamar Jackson to potentially go into Atlanta, but that changes things. I mean, I don't anticipate Tampa Bay doing anything more than, say, signing like Baker Mayfield, in which case, I think Derek Carr is better than Baker Mayfield. So, you still have the edge there. So, look, it's, again, for New Orleans, I mean, this is a team that's trying to navigate post Drew Brees. I mean, we're seeing the Patriots do it post Tom Brady going into year 4 now. It's not an easy thing to do. I mean, look at Indianapolis post Peyton Manning. I mean, they thought they had one in Andrew Luck, but we know how that worked out. And now they're doing the gauntlet with aging veteran quarterbacks, and who knows who's going to be next. Perhaps I was going to say Matt Ryan, but I was like, Matt Ryan already went there. So I guess, who knows? But, for New Orleans, considering their options, considering what was available, it's a smart move. I mean, it gives you some stability. And like you said, health-wise, he's going to be out there. And we've heard the cliche all the time, best of, ability is availability. And that's what Carr is offering New Orleans, and at least gives them an opportunity to maybe not focus so much or be concerned so much with the quarterback position, knowing that Carr is under center. Now, again, like I said, this isn't this isn't Tom Brady to Tampa. This isn't, okay, we're going to turn the franchise around and all of a sudden compete for a Super Bowl. No, I mean, they were a sub 500 team or sub 500 team over the last 2 years after Drew Brees. But like you said, they had a pretty good defense. Now they have more stability under center. And look, if you're New Orleans, you got to be excited for it. I just don't see it as any sort of big momentum swinging move. I think it makes a big difference in the NFC South and probably even the NFC, because quite frankly, we don't really know outside of Jalen Hurts and Geno Smith now, and we're going to talk about him in just a minute. Who are the starters in the NFC? Who are the sure thing starters in the NFC? Kirk Cousins? I mean, you want to consider him a sure thing?
Obviously. Yeah, I'd be right. Exactly. I mean, he's going to start. He'll be the guy, but I mean, how far can you go with Kirk Cousins? And even to a similar degry, Dak Prescott.
Same thing, yeah.
Yeah, neither one has ever played in a conference championship game. So, there's that. I mean, even Aaron Rodgers, I'm assuming he's going to be playing elsewhere next year. And remember last week for about 2 hours, there was a narrative that Carolina was really interested in Aaron Rodgers, which to me, that would be the least sexy place to go. I don't even like the uniforms, Carolina. He's just kind of like, what's he doing there? But in terms of him potentially winning, that wouldn't have been a bad place to go, right? Because again, weak division. If he goes to Carolina, he's clearly the best quarterback in that division. In general, he's going to be the best quarterback in any division he plays in, unless he's, playing in some of the divisions in the AFC, the West, the North, and the East. Have better quarterbacks at this point, but he can play with those guys.
Well, look, I mean, if say he does go to the Jets, and you're going to ask me Josh Allen or Aaron Rodgers, I mean, I'm not at a point right now where I'm going to say Josh, because as entertaining.
You're saying Rodgers. I know.
Oh, of course, because
and I would too, because in certain situations I would trust him more than Josh Allen, who didn't play well the second half of the season.
No, and look, I mean, there were a lot of circumstances, and that's not to say that he's not going to take another step forward, and maybe Rodgers does take another step back this year. I don't know. I mean, I say it all the time, John. I can't predict the future. If I could, trust me, I'd be sitting on a tropical island right now, sipping Mai Tais and drowning in all the cash that I won, because I know everything that was going to happen.
Would you still be talking to me though?
Of course I would, John. Of course, of course.
9:38 in the morning. Of course you would.
I mean, maybe we'll see. I mean, I'm starting to think of all the things. I would have, done quite a bit. I would have made some nice bets. So, including putting a lot of money on the Bruins 25-1 to start the season and win Stanley Cup. So, but
that was good.
Yeah, Man, I wish I would have done
Wow.
that. I should have pulled the trigger, but I told myself, don't be a homer. Well, guess what? I should have been a homer right there and just taken a whirl. I mean, hell, $10 would have won me 250. So, anyways, no, I'm getting distracted. I'm talking about hockey and betting and all that. I want to stick to the quarterbacks. Derek Carr, New Orleans. Again, like I said, it makes them the best team in the NFC South right now. I mean, you could argue that they were the best team in the NFC South anyways at this point, and now with an actual quarterback. I mentioned just a minute ago, Geno Smith signed a nice deal. I mean, look, I have no idea if this is going to work well for Seattle. I'm not saying he had a great season last year. Don't get me wrong, and it really came out of nowhere. No one expected it, but that's a lot of money to give. Like I have here's the thing, John. I have no problem with the player getting the money. I think they should squeeze every last cent out of every owner in this league. They should get every single dollar. I don't care if they're overpaid. I'm never, ever, ever going to be upset that someone got their payday. But from a risk reward and what are you going to get for that? I don't think you're ever going to get performance that's even going to touch his price tag. And I think that's going to be a problem for Seattle moving forward. And look, I mean, it's based on, well, what? He's been in the league 10, 11 years. And, well, the majority of it has been not as stellar as this last season. So, I mean, good for Seattle for finding, a guy and locking him up and paying him and all that stuff. I just don't know if you're ever going to reach that level again with Geno Smith moving forward.
Yeah, he's been a journeyman, right? I mean, and somewhat of a disappointment. He was drafted in a position where he was expected to be the Jets quarterback going forward, and it never really happened. So now he's a journeyman who got to Seattle, and they did a really good job with him, led the league in completion percentage, get some good weapons there in DK Metcalf leading the way. So it was a nice season for Geno Smith. But, can you expect that going forward the next few years? I know that Seattle has the 5th overall pick. There could be a really good quarterback there. Maybe you draft a quarterback with the 5th overall pick, have him sit behind Geno Smith for a year or two, and then that quarterback's ready to go. Yeah. Maybe it's Anthony Richardson, who is, just blew up the combine. If he's available at 5, maybe Seattle takes a chance, has him, lets him develop, and Geno Smith runs the team for at least this year, maybe next year. And now you think you have Anthony Richardson ready to go. So that could be their plan of attack, because that 5th overall pick came to them directly from the Russell Wilson trade. So it kind of makes sense. You traded Russell Wilson, you get a 1st-round pick. Why not use that 1st-round pick on your next quarterback?
Yeah. No, look, I mean, it makes sense. And, being Seattle, it's, you'd rather have, a steady vet in there as you wait for that young guy to develop, rather than kind of rolling the dice and trying to find the right person. Because look, if you can allow your young guy to sit back and learn and kind of mature into the position, then I think you're going to be better off. I think, again, we saw that, with many great quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers obviously sat for 3 years. Tom Brady sat for a year. Patrick Mahomes sat for a year. So there's value, I think, in not playing right away. And, at least with Geno Smith, Seattle has that option. And look, it doesn't mean the kid's coming in and playing under Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes, but he's still coming in and being able to learn the nuances of football and what goes into the sport. Because again, we talk about it all the time. The quarterback position is so important, and there's so much that goes into it that A, maybe doesn't even necessarily show up on the football field, and B, certainly doesn't show up on a stat sheet. And I think there's, like I said, there's a lot of value in learning some of those nuances before you even step on the football field and are tasked with leading a group of 53, or more specifically, group of 10/11 during a serious drive, whatever. So, look, I think Geno Smith, I think every player deserves it. Like I said, every single dollar they can absolutely milk out of these owners and in this league, because damn well, just like I do, that they're not going to get it once they leave. I think they have 5 years of insurance, and then that's it. And the NFL is like, see ya, adios. So absolutely happy that Geno Smith got paid from a purely business risk reward, I think it's not going to age necessarily too well for Seattle, and I just don't think you're going to get that same level of play that we saw from him last year for much of the first half, and then the second half it kind of was a little bit more rocky towards the end. But I mean, good for Geno Smith. That's what I'm happy about. He got paid. Excuse me. I just don't think it's going to work out terribly well in the long run.
It's just the price of doing business right in the NFL. He had 10 good games last year, and then, as you said, kind of found his level in the final 7 games of the regular season, which is, again, a journeyman quarterback. A guy who can certainly start in the league, but is not a top 10 quarterback or remotely close to that. He played like that for 10 weeks, and then, again, he returned to being Geno Smith.
It's
and
Nick,
good for him.
it's
I'm
Nick
right
Foles.
with you, Ian.
It's Nick Foles
exactly.
all over again.
Exactly. And I'm 100% with you. Get every last dollar you can. His career is short, and like you said, after 5 years, you're on your own insurance plan, which to me is sickening. But yeah, that's just what quarterbacks are getting now. Like you said with Derek Carr, 4 years, 150 million, 100 million guaranteed. To get a guy who we say Derek Carr is the 13th or 14th best quarterback in football. So again, this goes back to someone like Lamar Jackson, who's clearly better than Derek Carr and a superstar, right? Off the field as well in terms of merch sales and all of that stuff. He means a lot to a franchise. He's looking at that saying, I got to get way more than that guy.
Yeah. Well, but here's the one caveat with Lamar Jackson, it's health. And I mentioned it yesterday when we were talking about Lamar Jackson, who, I think Ian Rappaport mentioned it this morning. Very likely that he's going to end up getting franchise tag today, because today is the deadline. So you got to expect it. I mean, you just can't watch this guy walk. Yes, I agree. Lamar Jackson, obviously game changer. You can bring him down to Atlanta. All of a sudden you're like, wow, Atlanta has something going, or whatever team that acquires them, they're going to be better. The question is, for how long though? Is it going to be 8 games? Is it going to be the full 17? Is it only going to be 12? Is he going to miss time at the start of the season? At the end of the season? In the playoffs? I mean, that's the thing. The Ravens, they didn't have Lamar Jackson for the playoffs last year, John.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you? So from that point of view, if you're the Ravens, now again, I think the Ravens have, I don't know, for the last couple. This isn't just a this year thing. I feel like the Ravens have been very hesitant to pay Lamar Jackson for the last couple of years. But I think they are legitimate concerns when you actually think about it from a business standpoint. And I think a lot of business in the NFL is conducted based on not necessarily business. So, for instance, Daniel Jones is going to get a contract that probably pays him more than $35 million a year because, well, he just happened to be up next. That's not good business. That's just falling in line in a what I think is a pretty broken system when it comes to, well, again, the entire and we can talk about this on another day, maybe in the middle of a dead off season, but the whole system in general for NFL and the NFL players and everything is just kind of all messed up anyways, without guaranteeing money and all this other stuff. But Daniel Jones is not worth $35-40 million a year, but
no,
he's going to get it though. He's going to get it. And I think the Ravens, yes, Lamar Jackson is his ability worth $40 million a year? Absolutely. Probably worth more. But again, how many games are you going to get that ability, and for how long? Because this isn't necessarily just about in individual seasons. It's about long term. If you sign him to a 5-6 year deal, what if by year 3? Again, I'm not predicting it, but what if by year 3 he's so hampered by injuries and they just start piling up all of a sudden? If you're the Ravens, you're kind of in a pretty bad situation because you're not getting that level of production. And certainly that's something that's a little bit more, you can kind of predict a little bit more, that it's obviously Tom Brady doesn't use his legs and certainly doesn't play the position like Lamar Jackson does. So that wear and tear doesn't exist necessarily. With a guy like Lamar Jackson, you're not going to regain that over time. You're not going to all of a sudden stretch a little bit more and work on pliability and realize that, oh, yeah, your legs are fine. They're going to unage. That's not going to happen. So there's a lot of risk in signing a guy like Lamar Jackson, but the payoff is so much bigger than anyone that's available, including Aaron Rodgers, who, again, I mean, limited production or limited, not limited production, limited potential, so to speak, over the next year, maybe two, because that's kind of what you're feeling with Aaron Rodgers. Like if you get him for a year, it might be the best year that you have, but it may only be that 1 year.
Yeah, I mean, you go all in at that point, to use that expression. And if you're a team that you think a very good quarterback or a great quarterback away from being a contending team, you make that move. And I think the Jets are there now. They have an outstanding defense. They have some nice pieces on offense. I think if they had a competent quarterback last year, just a competent quarterback last year, they'd probably go 10-7, right? They were 7-10. Now, if you put Aaron Rodgers fully motivated, fully engaged, playing at an MVP level, now you're looking at maybe a 12-win team. So, yeah, I mean, and if you're the Jets, you haven't made the playoffs since 2010. So I think if you're Woody Johnson, you've got to be relevant, right? The Giants are improving. You share the city with them, and you want to be relevant. So you go ahead and make that giant move. And it may not take you as much as you think. I think Green Bay would probably accept a second and a fourth-round pick for Aaron Rodgers. I don't think they're going to get first-round picks because of his age and also because of that contract. I mean, someone's paying Aaron Rodgers $60 million next year.
In the market, too.
Right, exactly. Yeah, a lot of teams are going to look and say, yeah, he's a great quarterback and all that stuff, but he's going to be 40 in December. And there's a lot of stuff that goes with bringing Aaron Rodgers into your building. So it's got to be a team that's ready to win. We think the Raiders, maybe the Titans, the Jets, Carolina was floated out there last week. So, yeah, maybe there's 4 teams. I mean, I would love to see him go to San Francisco, but I don't think Green Bay is going to trade him to San Francisco. No. I'd like to see some good quarterback go to San Francisco because they're that good. Are they that stubborn that they think it's their system that wins and they don't really need a high-end quarterback to win?
No, they just
maybe they're that pig-headed.
I just think that they screwed it up, and now they're left with little options. Like what option do they have? I mean, their best option might be Jimmy Garoppolo, as crazy as it sounds, because again, I don't. Okay, so the report today or this morning I saw, I think from Trey Wingo, said Aaron Rodgers and the Jets have spoken or whatever, which we're kind of getting the feeling that that's where he's going to end up going. The writing's on the wall, the the callback to history with Brett Favre. It's just, I mean, I just can't get over that. That's incredible. So I got to imagine that's where he's ultimately going to end up, because I don't, at this point, I don't see him going back to Green Bay. Now, John, here's the interesting thing. Rich Eisen was talking a lot yesterday, apparently, because I saw so many quotes attributed to him and talking about his experience in Indy and what he was hearing and stuff like that. Now, jokingly, I think we said on Monday or yesterday or maybe even last week, or at least I said, look, I don't care about what sort of backlash might come from it, but if Tom Brady unretires a second time, I am all for it. And now there's those rumblings, and I really don't know how legit these are. Last year, I was a little bit more, when we started hearing these, we heard them a little bit more. There's a little bit more chatter, so to speak. But the possibility was floated about Tom Brady ultimately still playing and going to Miami because, well, if you had to choose between Tua and Tom Brady, well, I think if you're Miami, you're pretty much going to go with Tom Brady. I think that's, and no disrespect to Tua. I just, again, health-wise and just ability. I mean, forget about the health for a moment and just realize that, Tom Brady still, even in retirement 2.0, is still a better quarterback. So, John, I know it. Look, I will say this: it'll be a lot harder to reconcile watching Tom Brady play for the Dolphins than it was Tampa Bay. Obviously, the AFC East and the rivalry and all that stuff. But let's see. I'm trying to think
You're
of.
speechless at this point.
I am,
just
because
thinking about it.
because I'm thinking about, like, look, my I just want to see Tom Brady continue to play. And at this point, if it means him having his option is playing for the Miami Dolphins, I'm not going to like it as a Patriots fan. That's going to be, it's going to cause me a lot of, upset stomach, diarrhea, indigestion, the Pepto-Bismol commercial, pretty much all of those. Maybe
we don't need all those details, but I get
No,
you.
I know. Yeah, I was just, I yeah, I was thinking maybe I got a little bit too but that was the commercial. All right, that's
true.
Yeah, that's what the commercial was. So I apologize for anyone who I gave a pretty graphic image to. Whatever the case may be, it's going to cause me a lot of acid reflux. Let's put it that way. But if the option is that or never seeing him play football again, I'll suck it up and maybe not cheer for the Dolphins, but at least cheer for Tom to succeed. Not like, but through the Patriots, but like, I don't know. Like I said, I'm gonna have to do a lot of soul searching if that happens. I don't know if I'm quite ready to confront that yet. But the point is, John, I just want to see the guy play again. I don't really care at this point. I just want to see him go out there and continue to do what he does, because I still think he can. And the idea of him being able to play with guys like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and kind of that offensive mindset, it's intriguing to me. Plus, John, if it works out that Aaron Rodgers goes to New York, well, now we're getting Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers twice a year. And I'm okay with that.
And we're getting Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen twice a year. And we're getting Tom Brady, Josh Allen twice a year. And
Tom Brady, Bill Belichick twice a year.
Twice a year. Yeah, and you get Belichick having to face all three of those quarterbacks twice a year. And, be the classic case of here comes Buffalo with Josh Allen, here comes the Jets with Aaron Rodgers, here comes Miami with Tom Brady, and here comes the Patriots with Mac Jones. I mean, talk about going into a gunfight with a knife. That's where the Patriots would be at. They'd be a major deficit at that most important position in all sports. But just for what we do, Ian, think of the storyline. I mean, every week in the AFC East would be like, oh, okay, it's Aaron Rodgers against Tom Brady. And those games have all been fascinating to watch. And Belichick gushing about Aaron Rodgers more than I do. Yeah, that would be fascinating. I mean, that division would be insane. I mean, and I think Brady would lean towards Miami only because that's where his family is located and he wants to remain close to them. If he really wants to win that 8th Super Bowl, I still don't understand why Tom Brady and the San Francisco 49ers can't get together.
Yeah.
Right? It's almost like the two best-looking kids in high school finally, after so many years, they finally hook up. So, like, why not just do this? If you're San Francisco, just reach out and say, look, we're this close to being a Super Bowl champion. You come here, we'll be a Super Bowl champion. And Brady's so darn competitive, right? I think when he saw Mahomes win his second Super Bowl, he's like, I got to get back out there on my 8th. That put the nonsense of, Mahomes being the GOAT to rest. So that makes the most sense to me, right? I mean, and he's a free agent, right? He can go anywhere he wants.
And that's
Rodgers has to get traded, which makes that much more difficult to deal with. Like, I'd love to see Rodgers in San Francisco because he never beats them. So, yeah, I'd like to see him there. But the Packers aren't going to trade him to San Francisco, I don't think, unless they get blown away with an offer. And San Francisco doesn't have a first-round pick.
Hey, and look, if that's the good that comes out of this, in terms of all the GOAT talk and premature anointment of Patrick Mahomes the last month, I'm okay with that. If that's the price we have to pay to get Tom Brady to once again renege on his retirement, I believe we're approaching, we're getting close. We're about a week away from that 1 year mark. And we know how he retired on the same day, 2 years in a row. So maybe he'll announce his return on the same day, 2 years in a row. And you know what? I'm okay with that. All the people out there saying like, oh, this would be a bad look. This would do this. This would do that. Blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Say what you will.
Would you rather have Tom Brady playing quarterback or I don't know, pick some guy that's out there as the 30th best quarterback in football, eating up.
I'd rather have Tom Brady than Derek Carr. I'd rather have Tom Brady than Geno Smith. I'd rather have Tom Brady than Daniel Jones. And all these guys are getting nearly $40 million a year contracts right now. So, yeah.
And it's not going to take that to sign him, right? He'll play for 25.
Yeah, he's good, man. Well, and here's the thing. Like he's already planning on not joining Fox Sports until 2024 anyways. So,
exactly. Yep.
John, I hate this. I hate that I'm getting talked into this, because if it doesn't happen, it's going to make, like, last year, I was just about getting over Tom Brady retiring. I was just starting to move on with my life. I was starting to go outside again. I shaved. I showered for the first time in nearly 40 days. And then he announced his return, and I put that off. I thought I was better equipped to handle it this year. Putting these little tidbits out there, it kills me. It kills me. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll find out next week is the start of free agency. And, maybe we'll have some answers about where Aaron Rodgers is going by then. Maybe we'll have some more answers with Lamar Jackson. Maybe not. Maybe Tom Brady unretires. That'd be nice. We can celebrate then. So thank you, everyone. And we will talk to you later in the week.